Oh Hello Maker, the craft subscription box for the creative and the curious. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these pretty little painted pots, which are perfect for little cacti or succulents, a little posy of flowers, or maybe some pens and pencils. These little pots are going to be made out of air drying clay, so you don't need to worry about using a kiln or anything to make beautiful pottery. You can have some real good fun decorating your pots too. I'm going to be showing you 7 different techniques, but there are so many more. And don't forget to share your photos, videos and stories, tagging us, Oh Hello Maker, and also using the hashtag OhHelloMakerBox. And you could find a little thank you gift in your next box. Start by opening up your packet, and you want to pull off a good old chunk of clay. And start by kneading it in your hands, and then you want to roll out the clay using the little rolling pin. You want to aim to make a long rectangular shape, so keep turning the clay over. You want to have the clay roughly about 5mm thick. Then take a ruler and a blunt knife, and you want to cut a rectangle from the clay. Now this doesn't have to be precise, you can judge it by eye if you like. Then pick up the clay and then roll it round to see how wide your pot will be. You can then trim off any excess if needed. Then overlap the 2 short edges by about 1 centimetre and then carefully press those together, dipping your finger in some water. That's going to help it stick. You want to press along the join in the inside of the pot too, and if there's any excess clay that's sort of popping up the top, you can snip those off with scissors. Roll out some more clay to about 5mm thick. Dab a little water on the underside of your pot and then place it onto the centre of that clay. Use your blunt knife to cut all the way around following the edge of the pot, and then pull away the excess clay. To attach the base to the pot, you want to use a combination of the edge of your knife to smooth it upwards using water. You can also use your finger here as well, and don't worry if it's not perfect because you're going to be using sandpaper once the pot is dry, so you can rub away any rough bits. You'll find a cocktail stick included in your kit to create different effects. I've used the cocktail stick to make tiny holes in the pot. Showing you the process all over again, just speed it up. This pot's a bit taller and thinner. Here you'll see that I'm using the cocktail stick to create a really lovely scalloped edge around the top. You can also have a go at making a small dish to put one of your pots on. Roll out the clay to 5mm thick, then place on a small upturned plate or saucer, cut round it with a blunt knife, then pull off the excess clay from the edges. Turn the saucer over, then place the clay back into it and press it down slightly just to create that dipped shape. Then use water to smooth over the edges and leave it to dry. Then you can give it a good old sand with the sandpaper included. Then brush away all of the dust. Now I've created a splat effect on my plate, simply just by mixing up some blue paint with a bit of water, dip in the paintbrush, and then just splat the paint, and it gives such a lovely effect. And now back to the pots. So as we did with the dish, you want to give your pot a really good sand. Get rid of all of those rough bits, focusing especially on the join because that's often a little bit untidy. But you can always have that at the back of your pot so people don't see it. To decorate the knell, I've used some pink paint along the bottom edge of the pot. Now it's up to you, but I decided to paint the base of the pot too, and then I left it to dry. Once it was dry, I picked up some of the yellow paint and added little dashes here, there, and not everywhere. And then once that was dry, I tore off a strip of brown paper, but you can use any paper or a bit of kitchen towel, and I splattered blue paint along the top edge. I then took away the brown paper and painted the inside of the pot pink. Now you need a bit of a steady hand for the Percy. Using your fine paintbrush, pick up some of the pink paint, and you want to paint lines from the top to the bottom of the pot. As you can see, mine are a little bit wiggly. I then added 2 blue lines in between. And then you leave them to dry. The Maisie Wren, named after my daughter. So use your thin paintbrush and the pink paint to draw on a very stylized bird shape. These are his wings, or her wings. Bird body. And a little head. I'm then using the thicker paintbrush and the yellow to do a strip of yellow all the way along the edge of the pot. And again, I've painted the base of the pot as well. I think it looks a bit neater. Then add some detail to the bird using the fine paintbrush and the yellow. And then once dry, do the really fine detail using the blue paint to do the bird's beak and eye. Two little legs and 3 little toes. You can also dot some blue along the bird too. Finally, add a blue line just above the yellow, all the way round the pot, and then leave to dry. This is the Nancy, this is the one in your instruction leaflet. Use the thin paintbrush to paint 2 pink organic shapes. Once they're dry, pick up some of the blue paint, do a circle, a little blob in the middle, and then do very fine lines coming out from that central point of the flower. Turn the pot round as you go. And then start on the second flower. Very steady hands. You can rest your hand on the pot to try and get a really steady line. But again, don't worry if it's wobbly. Then use the blue paint to draw the stems, joining them up together at the bottom. Then using the wrong end of the paintbrush, dip it into the blue paint and add some little dots along the top of one of the flowers. add some little leaves and leave to dry. Now the Bessie, I had already done a little practice on a piece of paper to see the sort of design I wanted to do. So I knew I wanted a strip of pink all the way around the centre, but I didn't want a crisp clean line. Once that was dry, I then added some yellow, some blobs and then some dots. All the way around the pot, and then once that was dry, I mixed up some blue paint with some water, and then using my finger on my other hand, I then started flicking the blue paint onto the pot, and that gives a really random, lovely effect, and then leave to dry. Now you'll just be using blue paint for the Ralph. So apply some blue paint to the thicker paintbrush, paint all the way around, all the way, leaving a strip of white at the bottom of your pot, and then paint all the way around the top, getting into those little grooves. Now you want to pick up some of the blue paint with the fine paintbrush and follow the pot all the way around. Again, it might be a little bit wobbly, but don't worry about that. It all adds to the charm of the pot. So I've done 4 very fine lines around the edge. And then I leave it to dry. Now the Bertie was originally yellow and I didn't like it. So here he is being painted pink. I created this one by, obviously it's a very small pot, but I cut out a little triangle of clay when I was making him for his nose, so it's very simple. I covered the whole thing in pink and I actually left the yellow inside. I thought that was quite nice. Then once the pink paint was dry, I used the fine paintbrush to add 2 little eyes from blue and a little mouth again in blue. And there you go, the whole gang. My pretty little painted pots. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial from Oh Hello Maker, and see you again soon.